Hello and welcome. So, the weekend's over. We had a great weekend of fights. UFC 247. It was a great card. I specifically enjoyed watching the prelims leading up to the main event. It was a long day of fighting, but it was well worth it in the end. Just to give you a recap of my night, I really enjoyed watching Kalen Williams versus Alex Moreno. In the year 2020, it seems that no one wants to fight more than 60 seconds. This is the second fight that I know of that actually ended in this time frame. First, it was Conor versus Donald Cerrone. Now we have Kalen Williams versus Alex Moreno. Kalen Williams, I believe this is his first UFC fight. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he likes to be called Chaos, so I'm definitely going to get that correct. And he knocked out Alex Moreno in 27 seconds. It was just amazing to watch. It happened so fast, I don't even really remember it. All I know is I saw how serious the man looked, and he immediately attacked Alex Moreno, didn't give him a chance to think straight, and just started punching him, and eventually got him on the ground, punched him some more. The fight's over. Insert the ceremonial backflip in the octagon. On to the next fight. It was a great performance by him. Hope to see him even more. We'll see what happens. By the way, the topic of this video is what are the rules for MMA fighting. So I'm going to get into that, but let me just go through my other favorite fights. Lauren Murphy versus Andrea Lee. This was a controversial match. People say the judges got it wrong. Lauren Murphy walked out with the victory after 3 rounds. She got the decision win. And in the preliminary card, my favorite fight, of course, was James Krause. This man stepped in on 24 hours notice, got the contract signed. Trevin Giles, even though his original opponent backed out of the fight due to medical, Trevin Giles said, you know what, it's in my hometown, I'm going to fight today. So he signed the contract onto a guy he had no time to prepare for, and vice versa. This fight was probably on the preliminary card, fight of the night, simply because of those circumstances. And it was a great fight. Trevin Giles, I saw him fight maybe a year and a half ago, and this was his return fight, I believe, and he did a great job. On to the main card, Derek Lewis, he did his thing. He had a strong third round, and it's controversial whether or not he actually did win the first and the second round. And just speeding right to the main event, Jon Jones versus Dominic Reyes. This fight was interesting and amazing. Dominic Reyes, a guy that no one really knew too much about, besides the fact that he's been knocking all his opponents out. There's highlights of him. The guy shaking his finger like, you didn't touch me. Next thing you know, a split second later, he's getting a kick to the face. He's knocked out. He's gone against Ovin St. Preux, Volkanov, and he's won against these guys. So Jon Jones, this was a big task. This man hasn't lost in a decade. Dominic Reyes pushed him to the limits. In the first round, Dominic Reyes was strong. In the Ariel Helwani interview today, Dominic Reyes admittedly said that he took his foot off the gas in the 5th round because he felt like he was winning the entire fight. It's hard to say. I did say that Reyes won the first round, Jones won the second round. I have to rewatch the third, but I would say that Jones won the 4th and the 5th round. So, with that being said, people still feel like Dominic Reyes did a lot to win this fight, and we all know how this is going to end. It has to be rematched. There's no way that this goes without a rematch. It's just up in the air. Jon Jones can put on a better performance. Dominic Reyes, he's pretty much a rookie at this point, and he's going to grow from this fight. So when they meet again, it's going to be, in the words of Jon Jones, an epic match. It's the type of fight that builds character on both sides. The champion learns that he has chinks in his armor, that the blades are starting to get through and cut flesh, and he needs to tighten up his game. And Dominic Reyes, he's only going to be more ambitious and even more anxious to get the victory. with that being said, let's take a look at the breakdown of what dictates a fight score. Okay, so this comes from PokerStar blog and the Association of Boxing Commissions and Combative Sports, ABC. We all know it's a 10-point scoring system. The winner gets 10 points. The loser can get points of 9, 8, or 7. Now, there's 3 main criteria of scoring. The main criteria is effective striking and grappling. Effective is the key word. Focusing on successful actions with a likely chance to bring the bout to an end. A big punch that hurts your opponent and buckles their legs is worth more than several lighter blows. Similarly with grappling, attacking with submissions is worth more than simply laying on top of your opponent and holding them down. Easy enough. If you're sitting there jabbing and circling and someone hits you with a combo that rattles you, the person with the combo, even though you had more output, the person with the combo and they had less output, maybe they're just more accurate, they win that criteria simply because their punches had more of an effect on their opponent. Now, if the judges look at the fight and they say, okay, you know what? Both fighters are equally aggressive and effective. The second criteria is who has the effective aggression. So in this criteria, this means who's more willing to engage in the fight, pretty much. Who's looking to end the fight. PokerStar's blog says this somewhat nebulous criteria revolves around which fighter was more effective in aggressively attempting to finish the fight. Simply rushing forward, throwing heavy punches that come nowhere near landing is not known as effective aggression. So, pretty much getting right to the point, if you want to be seen as an effective aggression type of fighter, then you need to throw combinations pretty much. You need to do moves that indicate that you're trying to end the fight. Put yourself in a position to end the fight, which leads directly into the third strong criteria point, which is fight area control. Who is controlling the pace of the fight as well as where is the fight taking place? A fighter forced to fight with his back against the cage, well, this is what they're hypothetically saying. I won't repeat. What they're hypothetically saying is that if your back is against the cage, you could be penalized in a close round. Fight area control to me really means that, you're dictating the location of the fight. You're dictating the pace of the fight. But, your back could be against the cage as long as you're the one engaging in the other two criteria. If you're effectively aggressive, your back's against the cage, but you're jumping in for your combinations and then you're going back, you're still in control. It's just that's the landscape that you chose to move the fight into. Same thing with if you're on the ground. Al Aquinta versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. We all know Khabib likes to put you against the cage and wrap your feet up and just do business right there. Wear you down. Al Aquinta, he decided that, that's not working for me. I'm going to put the fight in the middle of the octagon. The takedowns were less successful, but that was just the point of Al Aquinta just putting the fight in a place where it was no longer a grappling, which was Khabib's strongest point, and he put it more into a boxing, which was perceptively Khabib's weaker point out of the two options, and Al Aquinta's strongest point out of the two options. And you can't really say that because Al Aquinta is really good at jiu-jitsu. But the point is, in that matchup, Al Aquinta decided to, subconsciously take the fight into the real estate area that he chose and that he thought was better. He ended up losing the fight if you haven't seen it, but it was a great fight. Probably one of the more competitive fights against Khabib that we've seen. And that, again, like Trevin Giles versus Alex Cross, was kind of a last-minute type of fight. But anyway, now we have an idea for just the fans, not the actual fighters. For us fans that are watching, now we know that the 3 criteria of judging a fight is not just about who's walking in there or making the most facial expressions and pounding their chest and, you know, throwing punches that aren't landing. As a fan, we can now sit back and say, okay, who's effectively striking? Who is effectively grappling? Who is the most aggressive fighter? Who is looking to engage in action and who is backing up? Well, and again, you could be backing up because this is what counter fighters do. Counter anybody is, you know, you're drawing them into your bubble and then reacting. And then, of course, there's fight area control. So those are the 3 main criteria that dictate a judge's scorecard. Now, who you have winning these fights, like the Derek Lewis fight or the Andrea Lee fight or the main event, Jon Jones, who you had in those, it's a debate that can go on for days and days and days. But a lot of you guys have been talking about what can be done to resolve this issue with the scoring mishaps, and I'm still on the whim about this, but there's been some comments saying that okay, first of all, Kansas, the state of Kansas, is going to be doing live scoring. So fighters are going to know after round 1 what the score is, round 2 what the score is, and so on. So the reactions are a little bit mixed. Some fans saying it still won't help the fact that judges being off people will just get mad sooner. I don't really get that. Let's move on. Hold on. Okay, so this is a good one. It said, one of the iconic moments of watching an MMA fight is watching when a fight goes to decision and not knowing who won until you heard the decision. As a sport, it makes sense to go to scoring, but it takes away from that moment, which is true. I don't know what to think about that just yet. I'll have to let that marinate before I give an opinion on the scoring. One thought I had was that when you're going into the final round, if you know you're up 2, that would cause potentially someone to stall. And maybe not so much on the pro rank level because that's just not good business, but on the local and the B level or the A- level fighting cards, that would be a problem. So if you're going to implement the fact that you have scoring, live scoring, you also need to implement the fact that points can be taken away easier if you're avoiding fighting. You should not be rewarded in the 3rd round with a 10-9 because you did a little bit of work and now you're just circling, avoiding contact because you know you're up. There has to be a way to penalize you to the point where you're forced back into the action, you know? Anyway, that's it. We talked about how an MMA fight is scored. I gave you a little bit of my recap on the UFC 247. I'm looking forward to the next fight. It's going to be a big one. Let's see, we got Fight Night 167. Corey Anderson, he actually wants to take Dominic Reyes' place. He's going to go against Jan Blachowicz. So that's going to take place on Saturday, February 15th. That's it, y'all. Thank you again for checking out Natural Grappler. Find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, find my Facebook page. I'm out.